Today is August 26th, 2024. My name is Gabriela Elena Lehmann Rodriguez, although I often go by Aximilia online. I'm originally from South Florida in the US, but I currently live and work in London as a multidisciplinary artist. I focus mainly on comic and manga art, illustration, animation, painting, and performance art. I started getting into art when I was in high school. I had decent grades, but I wasn't particularly good at any one subject or any sports. I mean, I tried many different things, but I never quite had a special talent or anything like that for a specific subject or hobby. But I had a classmate I really looked up to and who I wanted to impress, who spent a lot of time in our school's art classroom. So I joined my school's art club, and that's how my journey began for me. I remember I started, like most students, with painting still lifes of fruit in the classroom. But I did it so I could eat the fruit afterwards. More often, however, I loved to draw silly little comics and would pass them around class so I could talk to people without actually speaking aloud and getting in trouble. I was really drawn to narrative forms of art growing up. You know, things like books, movies, comics, anime and manga, and performing arts like ballets and operas. And it was these forms of storytelling that became references for the way I've been making art even today. I've always been extremely shy and am not the most outgoing person, so I use narrative artwork as a tool of communication in my practice. There's so many artists I admire that I could spend hours talking about them and their influences on my work, ranging from art history and artists in the classical canon to contemporary artists and the wide range of mediums that encompass that. For example, I always loved the compositions of Baroque artists such as Rubens, with all of their theatricality and dynamism. As well, though, I draw a lot from the world building and expressive stylized illustrations and character designs of anime manga artists like Hirohiko Araki and Yoshitaka Amano. I'm a really big fan too of contemporary performance art that revolves around the creation of personas and themes of critique and parody, such as the works of Amalia Ullman and Andra Fraser. And they were a major inspiration for trying performance art in my own practice. Currently, I am focusing on comic art, both in a literary context and I suppose how to incorporate that into fine art. I've recently come back from exhibiting and tabling at a convention in Japan called Comic Market or Comiket, with some fan comic works that I produced both this year and the previous year. Comic making and comic art and all the design conventions that come with that, it's a skill set that I would like to expand upon as I have some ideas for original stories that I would like to bring to life. And of course, as well, I think to further define an art style that's unique to my own work. Both the biggest challenge of being an artist and advice I would give to my younger self is, in short, staying true to yourself. So often, I think artists are asked to justify their existence as an artist. And I think there's no point in trying to answer the question of why should people care about your work? You know, this question that you often come across during many things like interviews or open calls and such. In today's time when everything and everyone is vying for your attention, both online and in life, with the endless amount of content out there, it's very easy to fall into the trap of and to get hung up on this question of how can I get people to pay attention to me? Or fundamentally, why should people pay attention? The answer that I've come up with time and time again is that you have to follow your own passions and interests, that you really have to create work that's important to you, whatever cause or style or medium, whatever form that may take. And then the people who are drawn to you and your work will naturally follow. it's this paradox of in trying to please everybody, in the end, you please no one, not even yourself. It's one of the most commonly quoted regrets people have in their life. So it's impossible to understate how important this concept is, of staying true to yourself and what causes, interests, passions you feel most strongly about. I truly believe that through that, artists and people can really create something amazing and unique to the world someday, whatever shape or form that may take. And this advice is something, I would still give even to my current self, and is something I have to constantly keep reminding myself as I make work and go about my life. If there's any medium I've tried that I would say is quite unconventional, it would be animation. I'm still very, very bad at it. Specifically, hand drawn animation. Oh my goodness. It is so labor intensive that for a single artist to work on a single sequence, even if it's just a minute or two long, it can sometimes take upwards over a year. But it is such a wonderfully expressive and gestural medium that I would love to improve in. I've worked on some digital animation previously, but I'm finding myself that I would love to incorporate it more into my work, as I'm still very much a beginner when it comes to depicting motion and sequence. Just so much goes into it, from drafting to storyboarding to stylistic choices, post production, background work, character design. You need to have the skills of a cinematographer, author, and illustrator to create a whole cohesive work. As part of my process, often when I'm working on a piece, I like to choose a specific song that matches the feeling of the work that I'm working on, and then just listen to that single song on loop, like on repeat for however many hours, which thank God for headphones, otherwise, I'd be extremely annoying to work with very quick in studio, and I feel like I'd drive everyone mad. The music choice doesn't really matter. It could be anything from classical music, a jazz track, or a popular pop song. Anything from something like, I don't know, Pet Shop Boys or Japanese music from the 80s. But whatever it is, there's going to be one song that I feel matches the atmosphere of a work, and then I'm going to listen to that one song on loop for the entire duration that I'm making the work. Canto pop or Spanish music or ambient, I'll really listen to anything. The best reaction someone has ever had to an artwork, or rather I should say the most impactful, was during the time I first moved to London. I was preparing work for an exhibition, so I spent a lot of time and nights in the studio building painting. This was in Central St. Martin's in King's Cross. And one night before the building closed, a woman walked by, saw me working. I was alone at the time, and then she ran off. And a few minutes later, she brought over some of the securities and cleaning staff to my work. And they said, "We've been watching this painting for the past couple days and wanted to find who was painting it, that we were big fans of watching the work develop over time." And the one woman who brought everyone over said to me, "Please don't stop making work." And it's quite hard for me, I think, to articulate just what I felt in that moment, or to even capture the emotions I was feeling at that time. That came from a quite difficult time in my life. To say that it was encouraging to hear kind of undermines it, but I remember thinking at that moment, if even one person likes my work, if there's even one person supporting me and watching me that it's all right for me to keep going. Now, there are so many people who have supported me over the years, so many mentors, friends, family, that I hope that one day I can show even a fraction of all the appreciation and thanks towards the encouragement I've received. But time and time again, I go back to that one imperative of please don't stop making work. Everyone brings their own unique experiences and perspectives when it comes to art and how they interpret it. I've often heard people talk about their favorite artwork or artist as being life changing. While I don't think my work currently inspires anything that grandiose, if my artwork, if what I make can bring any sort of comfort, whether that's through comedy or giving a sense of belonging or even just appreciation, then that means so much to me in itself. Yeah, and then thank you so much for taking the time to organize this interview. I'm most active on Instagram under the username Aximilia, as well as on Twitter slash X under Aximilia with an underscore. I have my own website portfolio at aximilia.com if you would like to take a look at some of my other works as well. I've wrapped up exhibitions recently, but for any future open studios, exhibitions, or events, I'll be sure to post them on my socials. So please continue to follow along my journey, and once again, thank you so much for your time.